What's up everyone, Pags here at MEI Studios. This week we're going to do a bench tips video and we're going to be looking at refoaming the Electro-Voice PL10. This gets really messy and you do need some stuff before we get started, so let's check it out.
The PL10 is no longer made by Electro-Voice, however we are able to use the foam kit that's available for the RE20. And I like to get this from Full Compass since they usually have it in stock and for the best price. We need 3 of these pieces, 975, 421, and the 540. And we're also going to need these things as well. Pretty common to have around. The 99% on the isopropyl is very important, and it's also important that the adhesive remover doesn't damage plastic. Alright, so let's get this refoam party started. First thing that we have to do is remove the head basket, which is just this little unscrewy thing at the top here. I probably should have put down paper towels first because the foam in here, you can already see, is disgusting. The capsule assembly just floats inside there. There's nothing really holding it in. So to get it out completely, we have to remove the XLR pins from the bottom. So we just unscrew that piece down there and gently pull out the XLR pins. Be careful not to pull too hard or too fast. We don't want to rip the wires off the capsule assembly. There we go. Okay, now to free the capsule assembly, just give a little push with the back of our toothbrush here and it'll push the capsule assembly out with all of the fun yuckiness. This stuff is so disgusting. If you've never touched it, trust me, you don't want to, if you don't have to. In order to get the full capsule out, we do have to disconnect the XLR pins, so I usually just cut them here. But the wires are long enough, you can just trim them back later. And that's it. The capsule is free, and we can see how disgusting the inside of this body is. Yuck. All of this has to come out. I'm just going to put the capsule aside for now and let's work on the body first. And we can see how much stuff is just caked inside here. Trying to remove as much loose stuff as I can first, and then I'm going to go in with the isopropyl alcohol and the toothbrush and start brushing it out. But first, let's get some paper towels down here to help capture some of the gunk that's going to come out of here. And again, 99% alcohol. We don't want anything with high water content because we don't want the inside to rust. And we are going to let this dry out. The higher the alcohol content, the faster it dries out. And we can already see how really disgusting this is, and just stuff is coming out everywhere. You do need to be pretty heavy-handed with it. It's not going to come out on its own. The very bottom of the body assembly is just flat metal, and if the foam is stuck to that, you're going to have to physically remove the foam because the brush is not going to be able to get in there to get it out. So I use the chopstick to try to loosen it up and get a lot of the crust out of the bottom of it, and it seems to be working pretty well. And it is important to get into all the little screen holes around the entire body, make sure nothing is blocked. And just using some Q-tips to try and get some more of the thicker gunk out of the bottom. And cleaning the XLR port with the toothbrush, and we can see that we got that really nice and clean there. And we're almost done. We still got a little bit more scraping to do on the metal plate. And I shoved a paper towel balled up in there and just kind of mashed it around with the chopstick and got almost all of the gunk out of the bottom of the mic. And if we take a look in here, there's no more gunk on the screen. And there's a couple of little tiny spots still at the bottom there, but that stuff doesn't come off. It looks like it's just like a discoloration that's on the metal now. But this is pretty much good to go. Now it's time for the fun part, which is the capsule assembly. And first going to clean up the gunk that's been left first and vacuum all of this garbage up. And yes, I'm vacuuming the side of the capsule. You can vacuum the side of the capsule. Do not vacuum the front where the diaphragm is. That would be bad. You might wind up dislodging the membrane or even damaging the coil. And then just using the toothbrush again to remove a lot of the bigger pieces. It's good to hold the capsule kind of to the side and upside down when you're working on the front of it. That way the pieces of gunk and the alcohol don't drip down onto the diaphragm. Now just using a paper towel to kind of get rid of some of the stickier stuff that's on the side there. And the sides of the mic are extremely tacky. It feels almost like tape. That's how sticky it is. But doing my best to get it off with the alcohol first, and then going to wind up having to go to the Goo Gone stuff to get this cleared out. But first, we're going to try and get the gunk out of the little ports on the side of the microphone. These are vents. And it's a good idea to make sure that all of these are pretty clear and nothing is really kind of hanging in there. So just using a twisting motion with dry Q-tips, and it does come out pretty easily from these ports. And now I'm bringing out the Goo Gone. My bottle has this weird dispenser thing on the top of it where it doesn't just pour out. You kind of have to dab it for it to come out. So I just put some on a plate and then get a Q-tip or two and dip it in there and just kind of paint it on the side a little bit. You don't want to get anywhere near the diaphragm, and you don't want to go onto the white parts that are in the middle. But once the Goo Gone has set on there for about 20-30 seconds, you can kind of just wipe it off, and the plastic is shiny and new. It's not sticky at all. So then I'm going to move on to do the other parts of the capsule assembly. Again, that other side just feels like it's got tape on it. It's disgusting. And again, we're not putting that stuff on those white strips on the side. Just leave that capsule sit for a little while. 20-30 seconds, wipe it off, and good as new. Now I'm just removing some of the gunk that's in the cap that covers the diaphragm. This does come off, but I didn't want to take it off because I think you have to glue it back on. It's not something that kind of just sits there, and there really wasn't a lot inside where the diaphragm was. And again, using the Goo Gone on the top just to make sure that there's nothing sticky that's going to sit there and wind up coming in contact with the new foam that we put in. All right, now it's time to get the new foam ready. But first, I forgot. I got to do the head basket because I haven't touched that. Thankfully, there wasn't a lot in there. It was just a little around the outside where the foam kind of stuck to the metal. The grill part of it was pretty clean to begin with, but just cleaned it up a little bit more, and it's pretty easy, good to go. You can see that it's free and clear of any gunk and debris. The first part we're going to use is the 540, which is the end piece of foam. On the RE20, this goes on the bottom of the body assembly, but it is the perfect size for the PL10. The next piece is the 975, which is the surround that goes around the capsule. Now, since the PL10 capsule is considerably smaller than the RE20 capsule, you do need to cut this down and just make sure that you have about the same size height-wise when you put it in there. And the head basket will get the 421 piece, which is a rougher piece of foam, but you do need to cut it down. Again, the RE20 is quite a bit bigger, so we just need to trim this down to the size of the PL10. Took about an 1/8 inch off around the outside of it and then cut it down to about a 1/2 inch thick, and that should be good. We took the bottom part of the foam off and just cut the surrounding foam to about the size of the capsule assembly. And we want to make sure that the foam just makes it around once around the capsule assembly. We don't want overlap. There's just not enough room in the body for that to happen. Next, what we have to do is take a piece of cardstock or something pretty rigid and roll the capsule assembly and the foam, compressing the foam in this. This is very important to do. There is pretty much no other way that I've found to actually get this foam into the body in one piece without shredding it, trying to put it in. So I just took some cardstock, a couple of index cards, taped together, and then wrapped it around here using some tape to just hold it together. And again, we're compressing the foam on the outside, so that way when we slide it into the body, it goes right in. And we don't have to fight with the foam hitting the screen and stuff on the side there. Makes life a lot easier. And now I just split the chopstick in the middle there, and I'm using that as just a rod to kind of guide the wires through to the back where the XLR port is. And you kind of have to slide both of them in at the same time. There's not a lot of room to do that. So the chopstick is nice and long, and you can feed it right through. You can grab the wires on the other end and then take the chopstick out and continue to push the diaphragm in. Now, once the diaphragm is all the way in there, you have to get the paper out without taking the diaphragm with it. So you pull out the paper a little bit, and then you push the diaphragm down, and you just repeat this over and over again. So you'll see that I pull the paper up a little bit, and then push the diaphragm down. There we go. Pull the paper up, push the diaphragm, and eventually the paper gets too long for your fingers, so I just cut the paper. And almost cut myself in the process, but yeah, so just push that diaphragm down, pull the paper up a little, push, pull, push, pull. And eventually, bam, you got it. The diaphragm's in, the foam is in there, it's nice and compressed around the outside, the diaphragm doesn't move. And if you do it correctly, it should sit a little bit below the screw level in the body. And nothing should be sticking out of the top. Now, in this shot here, it looks like there's a little bit of foam sticking up. I did wind up going back and fixing this because when I pulled the cardstock out, I wound up accidentally pulling the foam with it. So I did go back and fix this before I finished it up. But just checking here and seeing if everything is going to fit properly, which it is. And with the cap that's over the diaphragm, you don't have to worry about that foam hitting anything. It protects it pretty much. And that foam will compress a little bit in there, and that'll stop a lot of the plosives that'll happen for the mic. It's not going to stop all of them as well as the RE20 goes, because there's just not enough room in there for enough foam. And the last piece is just to pull the wires out and reconnect the XLR. And that's pretty much it. So this is the final product. You can't see what's done, but it's done. The whole narrative section of this video was done using the PL10 after we did the foam on it, and I think it sounds great. If you've gotten anything from this video, please hit the like button, and if you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. It'll really help us out and help the channel grow. And thanks for watching. This is Pags, signing off.